see the darkness all around, trying to find my way out, trying to find my way out. My heart, it wanders through the night, searching for the starlight, searching for the starlight. The shadow, I'm following the light home. I know I see tomorrow. I'm moving through the shadows. The future is right in front of me. Never gonna let go.
Folks, I am absolutely thrilled and deeply humbled to be here today to express my profound gratitude. In just a few weeks, our community has grown to an incredible milestone of 522 as of right now that I'm recording this. And I could not be more thankful for your unwavering support. Each one of you have played a pivotal role in sharing this journey, and your trust in our content means the world to me. It's not just a number. It's a testament to the incredible connection we are forming and we're trying to build over here in this community of like-minded individuals who share a passion. I said I wasn't going to get emotional. This is my third time trying this. And I'm like, don't get emotional. Your comments, your likes, your feedback have been a constant source of inspiration and motivation. They remind me every day of the impact we can collectively make when we come together and explore, learn, grow. And as we continue this journey, I want you to know that your voice matters to me. Your ideas, suggestions, and even constructive criticism are always welcome because they help us evolve, improve, to get better. This channel is as much yours as it's mine. And I'm committed to creating content that resonates with your interests, your passion, and try to do things differently, not always I will stick to sort of like, the format. Like we've done yoga, well, relaxation at yoga. We've done, I can't even talk. Look, let's keep this incredible momentum going. Together we'll explore new horizons, have conversations. Today's podcast is about power. This is Majesty Sussex Report. Today, Sunday, October 29th, 2023. Welcome and thank you for the gift of your time. After reading the articles from the Byline Times 3-year investigation into what really happened as to, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan, deciding ultimately to withdraw from active duty or being working royals as we may, after reading the articles, it got me thinking about power. Who has it? Who we think have it? And what does it mean to really have power? So, today's episode is exploring power, unveiling the puppeteers behind the curtain. I'm your host, Antonio, and together we'll embark on a journey to unravel the complex web of power that shapes our world. Welcome back. Now let's start by defining power. Power is a multifaceted concept, often synonymous with influence and control. It's the ability to shape decisions, events, and people's lives. But who truly possesses this elusive force? And what are the implications of hidden puppeteers who actually really pull the strings from behind the scenes? Consider this. We live in democracies, but I hope wherever you are located, whichever system of government you are living in, we live in some kind of government. And for this particular podcast, I will be talking, my references are mostly about democracies. So we live in democracies where we elect leaders. And we assume they're the ones who control or who would have the power. Yet as we peel back the layers, we discover that power doesn't always reside where we think it does. Take the example of a prime minister, or a president even, who in the eyes of the public seem to hold immense authority. However, behind closed doors, they may be beholden to a media baron, like let's say Rupert Murdoch, for example, who can manipulate decisions through veiled threats and media manipulation, allegedly. So, in this podcast, we'll delve into real-life examples that shed light on our societal structures and analyze who really holds the reins of power. We'll uncover how the powerful often operate in the shadows, making decisions that impact us without our own knowledge. But before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment for something very special. Church Nelly. Church Nelly is a staple at many of Squatty's podcasts, and is a beloved member. I am not even sure if Church Nelly is part of, has subscribed to this podcast. I don't know if I've had the privilege yet. But I know that Church Nelly has not been well. I think she went in to have an operation. And I just want to take this moment and for us to send all of the amazing energy that she gives to so many podcasts, to send that to her and to wish her the most speedy recovery and that everything goes extraordinarily well. And may she find strength and solace in how much she is loved and cared for in this community. So I'll just ask us to take a moment as we say a prayer and send that energy over to Church Nelly. Thank you for joining us once again. So today, we're uncovering the hidden truth about power, its impact on our lives, and how we can navigate this intricate web to create a more equitable and just world. So what I've done, I've divided this into parts. So, part 1, the illusion of power. In our exploration of power, we must begin by acknowledging the illusion it often presents. On the surface, it might appear that leaders, elected officials, or CEOs hold the reins of power. But as we dig deeper, we uncover a more intricate tapestry. Consider the classic image of a president or a prime minister standing at a podium, addressing the nation. They seem to embody power, don't they? Yet the truth is, these figures are often guided by a myriad of influences, some seen, some hidden. Power doesn't always announce itself. It quietly infiltrates decision-making processes. And sometimes it operates under the radar. It's the unseen hands that craft policies, control narratives, and shape our collective destiny. It's the media moguls, the corporate giants, and the shadowy figures who hold sway over our world. The puppeteers. Let's talk about the puppeteers. Those individuals or entities that wield power from the shadow. One prime example is the influence of barons like Rupert Murdoch, for example. These media moguls own vast empires of news outlets, television networks, and publishing houses. They have the power to shape public opinion, influence political decisions, and set the agenda for public discourse. Imagine a scenario where a prime minister, eager to maintain a positive image in the press, finds themselves beholden to a media tycoon Behind closed doors, they might receive veiled threats of unfavorable coverage if they don't align with the media baron's interest. In such cases, it's not the elected leader calling the shots, right? It's the puppeteer pulling the strings. But it's not just media moguls. Power can also manifest through wealthy people. Some may call them wealthy elites. I don't like using that word because I find the people that usually say elites, the elites, are usually elite themselves, right? Like, for example, when we hear or listen to politicians and they say, oh, the elites are doing this to you, and the elites said this, and the elites said that. And I'm like, did you not fly here in your private plane? Do you not own, like, properties around the world? Do you not, hang on a second, did you not say that you are or is it billionaire? And you're saying you're not part of the elite? You are elite. So that word has been, I think, manipulated in a certain way that some people who want to endear themselves to the masses, right, to the working class, and they need someone to villainize, they say, oh, the elites do this, the elites behind closed doors do that. I'll just say very wealthy people, right? Because very wealthy people have influence, that they have access to decision makers. So if you folks are okay with that, I'll not say wealthy elites, I'll just say very wealthy people, corporate interest, and entrenched institutions. And a typical example of that kind of like embedded, kind of entrenched institution that has roots all over, that's so strong, the royal family, right? The British royal family. And we've heard both Meghan and Harry say the institution, we don't have a problem with the royal family itself, but we have a problem with the institution and the people who run and control the institution, right? As some will say, the men in gray, or I was about to say the men in black, but that's a movie. In such cases, it's not the elected leader calling the shots, obviously. It's the puppeteer pulling the strings. So when we look at that kind of power and who is pulling the string, looking at, as I said, those wealthy people and corporate entities, those big giant corporations that if they decide to pull out a warehouse here or to move their production to another country, it affects that country enormously. And of course, the institutions that are too big, we can't let them fail, or these very problematic institutions that we all, are obedient to, we have to follow because it's part of the system or governance system that we live in. Many times these unseen forces can dictate policies, economic systems, and even the course of history itself. So imagine that. Many times we think that, oh, well, we elected these people, they're the ones, they're making these decisions on our behalf. But are they? When there was the economic crisis, we find out that, the president, the leaders, the politicians were calling the CEOs of these big banks and so on and so, oh, can you guys do something? And, we kind of need you, blah, blah, blah. And it's them in closed rooms that then make the decisions as to which banks are going to fail, which ones are going to survive, and how much money they're going to ask the government to provide. Our money, right? Our taxpayer money. I read this week, someone said, isn't it amazing how the government has money for war, but it never has money for education or to feed its poor or to build streets, repair them, build them into areas that so badly need them with crumbling infrastructure. But they have money to finance war. So who's making the decisions, really? Right? So the people sometimes that we see that are the representation of the power, many times they're not the ones holding the power. It's held by someone else, or it's held by an entity. Many times we will see on companies, we'll see CEO, chairman of the board, or something like that. Is that the owner? Is that the person that truly owns that company? And many times it's not, right? Many times, and what a lot of corporations also do, or a lot of wealthy people who own, they will have company A own these 5 radio stations, right? So let's call it company radio station. So we think, oh, this company called company radio station own these stations. But no, company radio station is actually a subsidiary of Mega Station. Mega Station is a subsidiary of We Own Everything. We Own Everything is a subsidiary of, hey, I control everyone, right? So it's fascinating sometimes. I remember I was in the mall with my cousin, and she was getting some clothes. She'd gotten a summer job, and she was buying clothes for that job. You have to dress the part. So we went into this one store, and she said, I don't like this stuff here, blah, blah. So we went into another, and she said, I don't want to give them my money. I heard they they don't hire certain people, so we shouldn't give. I said, of course not. So let's not do it. So went into a third store, and she liked the stuff there, so she bought a couple of things, and we left. Right. A few months later, 2 of the stores were in or heading into receivership or bankruptcy or something like that. And I remember watching the news, and it said the parent company that owns store A, store B, store C, store D, and store E. And I went, hang on a minute. One company owns those different 5 stores? So here we were thinking that there is variety. Each store had its own sort of. One of the stores catered more to younger, trendy. Another was a little bit more conservative, and so on, right? So they had the different types to cover the market, but we didn't know it was all owned by this one company of this family that owned all of it. So it's very interesting that many times we think we know who has the power, but do we? In this part 3, we'll talk about the ripple. So, why should we care about these hidden puppeteers? Because their decisions and actions have a profound ripple effect on our lives. Policies that favor the wealthy can perpetuate income inequality. Media narratives that prioritize sensationalism over truth can distort our understanding of the world. Decisions made in corporate boardrooms can shape our environment and our job opportunities. It's crucial to understand that power is not inherently bad, but its misuse can have dire consequences. We must scrutinize, I don't know how I said that. Sorry, also, I have a bit of a hoarse voice today. I woke up this way this morning. So we must scrutinize the sources and consequences of power to ensure it serves the greater good and doesn't lead to exploitation or injustice. Because it is very disturbing almost when we see that big companies, and they say this over and over and over every year or every 4 years, 5 years, however long, and every different elections, municipal, federal, state level, all of that. We have people who sell us this whole idea, I'm going to tax the rich, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and corporations will finally pay what they should be paying. When you hear big corporations are paying absolutely like close to nothing in taxes, and when you start to make a little bit of a good amount of money to survive, right, in today's economy, and you see the amount of taxes that is taken from you. So I live in Canada, and we are taxed pretty high, but I justify that because of things I get back, right? Our healthcare system, for example, it has its issues, but when my dad went to his doctor, this was a few years ago. Went to his doctor, he wasn't feeling well. He was feeling very sort of lethargic and tired very quickly. And he's like, something is wrong with me. I'm not feeling well. So we took him to his doctor, his family doctor. His family doctor saw him and said, you're getting old, you're aging, you're just blah, blah, blah. He said, you just need to take this and this. He did what doctors usually do. So my dad went back home. Late that night, my dad said, no, something is wrong. I have never felt like this. Like it's something is not right. So we said to him, look, do you want to go now to the emergency and find out if there's something else, or do you want to wait? And my dad being my dad, he's like, oh, I'll wait in the morning. So in the morning, we went back again to his family doctor. And his family doctor was like, you're back again. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? So he's like, okay, listen, this is what I'm going to do. But I'm going to send you to get some tests. And he's like, I don't think they'll come back because, everything should be okay. So he did the test, and we were waiting for the results. As soon as the results came in, the doctor called my dad in. And within 10 minutes, there was an ambulance, and my dad was headed towards one of the hospitals here where I live, in the city where I live, that specializes in cardiac issues. So my dad had a quadruple bypass operation that day. And we paid zero. And when I say we paid zero, I mean we paid these things through our taxes, right? But I remember as my dad was being taken into the area where they do the operation. I mean, they spent hours. It seemed like it was forever. But to kind of distract our minds, my mom and my brother, we were sort of talking about things, and somehow, we began talking about healthcare systems and how quick something like, because my dad was basically, I think, any hour or a day away from having a massive heart attack. And to know that it was immediately, like he was off to the hospital and off to the, I know there's a name for it in English, but it's not coming to my head. Where they do the operations, into the operation room. And we talked about, for example, in the United States, I mean, the only, I think, developed country in the world that does not have universal health care for its people. And I know every time this debate comes up in the United States, they tend to do comparisons to other countries. Look, you're not going to find a 100% perfect system. There are people here in Canada that have to wait a little bit or even longer in order to get certain types of surgery. And especially also with COVID, all that stuff has been pushed back, 6 months, a year. And sometimes it's, if you do have the money, then people may actually just go over to the US and get the medical treatment there. In the UK, for example, also with all the issues that the NHS there have, some people may choose to go to Thailand or may choose to go to Dubai, right, in order to be taken care of faster, instead of jump that queue. So taxes for us, it does pay. It does pay, even though we are taxed at a higher rate. You see, I prefer that, right? But still, within that system, if you're able to understand the tax code system well, or you have good accountants that you're able to hire, you're able to look for loopholes and all that kind of stuff, so you still pay less taxes. So who gets that? Who gets that? The people who have power, people who have the means to do that. Right? I remember trying to help someone fill out an application for, I think, what we call it, the equivalent of welfare, right? And I kept going down to the questions and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, like so deep, like they want so much information. So we did it, sent it off, and then the person had an interview. And I don't remember whether they were approved or not. I was volunteering at a community center at that time. It was part of my high school course. So I volunteered at a community center for a month, and I volunteered at a child daycare for a month. And that is where I thought, well, I was thinking it already, but I was like, I want to be a teacher. I just adore those kids. And the thing that I think shocked me about that was how early our children are taught to stereotype, are taught what it is to be a boy, what it is to be a girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, just let the kid play with a doll if he wants to, and let her play with a truck if she wants to, right? It was fascinating to see how, adults who were working in with the kids, that they were so ready to reinforce the behaviors that are assigned to boys and what's assigned to girls. Here I go on a tangent, so let me bring myself back to what we're talking about here, about power. So the system in many ways is set up so that the people who have the least amount, end up paying the most. Try filling out an application for, and this happened to me, well, not to me, but it happened to a place where I worked. And they wanted to apply for these special grants from the government in order to hire young people, right? The government had this program at one point. And I remember our CEO, he said, "Oh, Antonio, we can put you on that program. So, maybe we'll put you on it too." And I'm like, "Listen, as long as I'm getting paid, I don't care. Just pay me." But I was asked to help the executive assistant to the CEO to sort of fill out these forms. And I tell you, I did not understand from question like 4. After that, I was like, what are they talking about? The company ended up hiring lawyers, literally hiring a firm to fill out this application. So who holds the power? And many times we hear these big businesses or whatever getting these grants and all this money, and small Papa John's, well, I don't want to say small mom and pop store at the corner, right, that actually need that kind of money or that kind of grant, they don't get it because they don't have the power. They don't have the power or the means to actually pay a law firm to complete the application. Here you are back. Thank you. I think that section went off on a little tangent here or there. Thank you for sticking with me. Our fourth part, I wanted to discuss how to navigate the web of power, right? Navigating that web. So as we navigate the intricate web of power, we must ask ourselves, how can we reclaim agency and promote transparency? I was speaking with my managing director the other day, and I was telling her about agency. I said, listen, I had agency when this and this happened in that department. I said, but when things got switched over here, that agency was taken away. But you're asking me to still act as if I had agency. I said, I don't have it any longer because it's a different priority. So unless you give me that agency and say, hey, and let everyone else know, there's nothing I can do. And, she's amazing, managing director. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize that. She goes, okay, let's talk about that. So how can we reclaim agency? And how can we promote transparency? How can we hold those in power accountable, whether they're elected officials or hidden influencers? One way is through awareness and education. We need to be aware and we need to be educated. Right now where I live, there is an issue with, I don't want to get into politics, but there is an issue with the provincial government, right? And the provincial government right now, there was some land that the government kind of handed over to these private construction companies, and that land was supposed to stay the way it is because it's an ecological land, and it's part of the lungs and the breathing system of our city, right? That has these native trees and all that kind of stuff. And now there's an investigation about it, and there was also allegedly, to the premier of the province, right? So this is like, I guess, the equivalent of the governor, maybe. His daughter got married, and some of these owners of construction companies that got these, got these contracts, they were invited to the wedding, and some of them gave like wedding gifts in the form of a check for $100,000, $200,000, right? Allegedly. I wasn't there. I don't know. The numbers I'm putting out also allegedly, right? But that stuff was in the news. So we need to be aware. We need to be aware and be educated by understanding the dynamics of power. We can better recognize when it's being misused or it's being manipulated. We can support independent journalism that uncovers hidden agendas and challenges the status quo, like byline investigations, right? Byline, so many of us, once they started to go down this path, we said, we're going to support them, right? Whether we donated individually £10 or £5 or £20 or £50, right? Because we wanted to encourage that kind of journalism, because I shouldn't say I'm shocked, but I'm highly disappointed, especially in those institutions that have that name, that heavy power weight of a name as the BBC News, right? When you think that they're unbiased and they will just give you factual information and actually cover the story from the different angles. And when you come to the realization that that is not happening, not only at the way they covered Prince Harry and Meghan, I was, I'm going to use that word I like using, flabbergasted. I was like, hang on a minute. Did they just invite someone onto the show that's a royalist, part of the Royal Rota? How do you think he is going to talk about the Duke and the Duchess? If the Duke and the Duchess are accusing exactly him and his buddies in that system, so he's going to show up and say, well, I heard the accusations that the Duke and the Duchess made, and I will say, they're right. We do trade stories, and we do get information that is leaked, and sometimes if one house is in one certain city. Do you honestly think that's what he's going to say? Or is he going to say, no, that doesn't happen? We have sources that we need to protect. I think they're just disgruntled because, Meghan couldn't this and Meghan couldn't that and Meghan this and Meghan that. Oh, by the way, she's biracial. Did you hear that? She's biracial. Oh, her mom lived in this area that wasn't great at all. I'm telling you, it was drug infest. I'm telling you, there's so many things I could say, but I'm not going to say it. Give me a break. When I started to realize that, watching, listening, I'm like, is this the BBC I'm watching? I had to check. I was like, yes, this is the BBC. I was so disappointed, right? So when we're able to have independent journalism that is actually doing the job and shows out different parts. As I said in the previous podcast about who gets to tell our story, or what stories are told, how they're told, who becomes the bad person, who's the villain, who plays the villain, and were they really the villain? So holding media accountable, right, is very important. So awareness and education, that's where we get to understand the dynamics of power, and we can recognize the misuse of it and whether or not we are being manipulated. So engagement is another big key. And I think in today's world with social media and all of that, it's easy and quick to get engaged. But I would preface that a little bit and say, be mindful how you engage. Because you don't want to automatically just jump to something because you have an emotional reaction to it. Says the pot to the kettle. But I keep reminding myself to sit with it, sit with whatever it is. Think about it. And if you are going to react on social media, think about how your words are going to come across to people, because they're your words. And people will read them as they see fit. Right? So just be mindful of how you participate in that way. But another way that I would encourage, no matter what, is participating in civic life. Voting and advocating for transparency and accountability are powerful tools to counterbalance hidden puppeteer. Why do you think in certain areas of a city, a town, a county, they used to have 3 voting sites, 4, 5, 6, 10, and all of a sudden they have 1? Why do you think that happens? So before, I was able to walk out my door, walk 10 minutes up the street, down the street, sideways the street, 10 minutes, and there was a voting center. Now I have to drive for 2 hours. Once I get there, the lineup is another 3 hours. And I'm going, well, it's just 1 vote. It's just 1. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to go home, or I need to go to work. I can't stay here for 3-4 hours. So when democracies, quote unquote, are making voting more difficult for its people, that should tell you something. Right? Because they're using your civic right and obligation to determine who keeps power or acquires the power. When political parties redesign districts in order to benefit their party, that should tell you something. When we see the same voices in municipal meetings or local school board, and they're demanding these things, you have to think, well, who's behind that? Because someone is behind that. Because these moms that all of a sudden became activated about this issue or that issue or the other, and you go, hang on a second. We have been reading Huckleberry Finn, like, for a while. And I'm using that book and not others, it's just because I think most people have read or are aware of Huckleberry Finn. So all of a sudden you want that book burnt, or you want it out of the school system, or no. That's erasure of that writing, that author. Listen, as a teacher, right? I mean, I'm not teaching presently, but as a person with an education degree and who've had the privilege to teach in a classroom, all of those things are teachable moments. They're a record of a time of our history, our humanity, how we wrote. I don't recall what I was watching earlier this week, and it had something to do with King Charles visiting, I think it's Kenya he's heading to. And they were showing this news reel, and the person was talking about how the natives, these savages, don't want to accept the white man better standard of living. And I'm telling you, the things that were said could have had anyone like not only drop their mouth, but should we burn that? My argument is no. Show it. Show it all the time. Because when we don't know our history, we will repeat it, and we are repeating history. When we don't educate and teach and show, we repeat our history. Not only that, for the people who are affected, if they don't know these things have happened in history to their people, they don't have that knowledge. I love Maya Angelou said at one point, she said, I think she was speaking to Oprah, and she said, you have been paid for. You have been paid for. On the backs of your grandparents, their parents, you have been paid for. So act accordingly. Behave accordingly. Your great-grandparents were picking cotton on the field, and they withstood the things they needed to withstand of the hope that you would be where you are. So they've paid your fee already. They've paid. So why are you acting the fool? Why are you acting the fool? Why are you behaving like that? Are you honoring your great-grandparents? Why are you behaving like that? Stop acting the fool. You've been paid for. They've paid for you already, for you to have the liberty, for you to want more for yourself. So why are you acting the fool? I remember I was watching, which a lot of people didn't like, I think, when it came out in the movie theater. I watched because I'm if someone says Oprah's in this, I'm like, I need to watch it. So I wanted to watch like all the movies that Oprah's been in and stuff like that, and then one of the ones was Beloved. I cried and I cried and I cried. There's a scene in Beloved where the elder, she calls upon they're sort of in a field, I think, or in the woods. And she calls upon the children and she says, children, laugh, laugh, so your mothers can hear, so your fathers can hear. Laugh, laugh, children. Men, dance, dance. And I started bawling because she said, laugh because your parents have never heard you laugh. Or something like that. And that hit me because
freedom, but slavery done already busted her legs, busted her back, hands, everything. When she come here, she ain't had nothing left to make no living with. Besides her heart. Baby Suggs used to preach right here. Let the children come. Let your mothers hear you laugh. let your wives and your children see you dance. Women, women, I want you to weep. Just weep for the living, for the dead. Weep.
Sometimes we don't realize that the power that we hold or that we may think we have is imaginary. And the things that we're doing constantly, even today, right? We're on this continuous, like, spinning wheel. We keep going and 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 going. Who are we working for? And what are the things that are being asked of us to do? What kind of agency do we have? Do we make our parents proud? Do we still laugh? Do we dance with joy? So I would say one of the greatest ways is to be very involved in the civic life of your neighborhood, of your city. Vote, no matter what, vote. If there's early voting, go, do it. Early voting. Because there's so many hidden, powerful people, the hidden puppeteers who are making decisions. And so many of us, I would say also, because you belong to a certain political party, and you're like, well, I'm never going to vote that. I'm never voting that. I'm always going to vote this because they believe in what I believe. And you stick on one issue, while they are contaminating your water, while they're throwing toxic stuff, while they're polluting the air, while you're getting cancer. All this stuff is happening, but oh no, I stuck to my guns. This one issue. Think broadly about power. The time that we have power as citizens of any democratic system is our vote. Look beyond the one issue. How is that one issue affecting you? How is it going to affect your pocketbook? How is it going to affect where you eat, how you eat? How is it going to affect how the cost of your groceries are? How is it going to affect how you get to your work, to your school? Is there going to be transportation available? Is there going to be roads repaired? Are the bridges going to be okay? Who has the power? The one power we have in democracies is our vote. Exercise it. So I'm going to do a very quick wrap up of this. And I think reflecting on our journey through, this sort of realm of power. Power is both visible, right? The power we see. We elect people who we think have power. So the power we see, the visible and invisible, the power we don't know about, the secret meetings, the deals, Now, we don't find out about these things until maybe 10 years or 20 years. Someone writes a book and we find out, oh, so all that information they were telling us were lies, or oh, this prime minister really looked out for us. Right? So power is both visible and invisible, and it shapes our world in profound ways. But by peeling back all these layers, questioning the status quo, and staying informed, we can become active agents of change. I am very, very happy and excited that, again, with what's happening in the world right now, that I see people of the Jewish faith, Christians, Muslims, people who are, not aligned with any religious belief, marching together because they recognize humanity. And they're saying, hey, this is not right. Or they're like, please don't do this in my name. When I see people in Israel who are saying, hang on a minute, we want our family back, but not the way you're doing it. So how do we keep agency or get agency? How do we activate it? I'll leave you with this thought about power. Power is a force that can shape our destinies, but it also a force we can shape in return. By understanding it, challenging it, and working collectively, we can strive for a more just and equitable society where power truly serves the people, not special interest. I mean, we'll always have that stuff, right? But the things that we can come together for and demand, then let's do so. I really hope you got something out of today's podcast. And the reason why I wanted to talk about power is I connected it back to what we've learned this week with the Byline investigation articles. And that is that in many ways, Harry did not see himself having any power or any agency. And those that the institution told him held the power or holds the power took full advantage of it. When he met Meghan, this self-assured woman who had worked for everything she has achieved, he saw agency in her. He saw power in her. What she did then was to trust the man that she was falling in love with, or that she was in love with. She was entering into a space, into a family that she was not aware of. accustomed to or had much knowledge of their inner works. She relied on Harry. Harry had no agency. So things continued and went on status quo. So when this abuse, ill treatment, being served up to him in many ways, even though he protested, even though, he wrote letters to the editor and called out what he needed to call out, the system was still working within the way the system works. The institution was still working the way the institution works. And I believe it's not until Megan realized that her husband did not have a lot of agency, that I wasn't there, allegedly, I just imagine it that way, she would question things with him and make him see that the way they were being treated or the way things were not acceptable. I remember in spirit when he talks about them being invited over to William and Kate's place, and Megan just being amazed. She's like, and listen, if I were her, the thing that would be going through my mind, I would be like, you're second in line. Well, at that point he wasn't any longer, but you've been despair. I would have thought they would have given you not equal, but at least second best. And you're not even close to second best. So with this, I wanted to bring to us, for us to look at, to see the things that we've learned, the things we're learning through their relationship, through the way they've navigated thus far, the institution, the racism, the media that is being just hunting them down, right? The way they've navigated all of this is that they've gained agency back. They've gained power back, right? And they have now carved out their pathway, their strategy in power, in their power. And my intention was to bring that to us so that the things we learn or that we observe, that we're not just observers, or we're not just, I want to use the B word, but complaining about the ill treatment, or we see this happen, that happen. I want us to learn the lessons. And I want us to start applying the lessons we're learning, because they're valuable lessons. I came to this because I've often said what I see happening to them is a lesson for us, right? They are the example that is being held up by the institution to say we're going to crush them, and they haven't yet, because Megan and Harry are centered in their power. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming along on this journey, on this podcast. If you're new and you stumbled onto this channel and you've been still here after an hour, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you found something that you liked. I hope it was thoughtful, that you learned something, and if you didn't learn something, that maybe you can teach me something. So do leave a comment, subscribe, like, and again, for all those subscribers that have given me this opportunity, this chance, I thank you. I am honored, I'm humbled, and each time I get this opportunity to speak to you this way, for us to have, this very modern conversation, I treasure it. And I hope each time I bring something to you, I'm doing some good, we're learning something, and we can navigate this world with our dignity, in our power. I appreciate all of you. I love you. Thank you. Until next time.